Indeed. In fact, I would go as far as to say what this government is doing about this rape gang inquiry is a masterclass in procrastination. And what did we hear from the Prime Minister? It was a right-wing bandwagon. What did we hear from senior ministers? It was a wolf whistle issue. Well, what we want to know are the terms of reference and where will they be put on the government's website so we can all...
Right, then, buckle up, folks. Grab your tea, adjust your monlols, and prepare for a parliamentary pantomime. So dramatic, even Shakespeare himself would have rolled his eyes and said, "All right, that's a bit much, mate." Today, we're diving into a gloriously baffling British spectacle that could only ever occur in the hallowed and often hilariously chaotic chambers of Westminster. Our leading lady, none other than Jess Phillips, Labour MP, serial shouter and part-time supplier of face-palming soundbite. And what's on the menu today? An absolute masterclass in losing one's marbles on camera. Oh yes, she didn't just lose her temper. She served it up on a silver tray garnished with righteous indignation and drizzle of passive aggression. But it wasn't just any MP on the receiving end. Oh no, enter stage, right Tory MP. Esther McVey, armed with more sass than a bake-off judge during soggy bottom week and ready to grill Phillips like a Greggs sausage roll at lunchtime. Before we show you the video footage, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
To the House today to listen to the Minister's statement in the hope that we would get some detailed information about the government's statutory inquiry. And what have we had today? A long statement and very little information indeed. In fact, I would go as far as to say what this government is doing about this rape gang inquiry is a masterclass in procrastination. And what did we hear from the Prime Minister? It was a right-wing bandwagon. What did we hear from senior ministers? It was a wolf whistle issue. Well, what we want to know are the terms of reference and where will they be put on the government's website so we can all inspect them? And when will this conclude? Or does the Minister hope that it will go on and on and on past the next general election?
Not sure that the Honourable Lady wants to hear my hopes about the next general election. I think, as I said earlier, the victims of this crime have sat in front of me with tears in their eyes and said they hate it when we shout at each other about these things and they wish we would work together. So just to tell her again the details of what I outlined, was that 1,273 cases have now been identified by the new policing investigation, which was actually recommendation 1 of Baroness Casey. And of those, we are expediting 216 cases. So, and what I will tell her about the terms of reference is that they will be published and consulted on. And I have to say, I would very much welcome her opinion, and she's never asked for a meeting with me, and I'd love to have one if she'd like to be involved in how we build those up. Please get in touch with my office. But what I would say is that I have to say, hers is not the voice I'm most concerned about sharing then with, and those people I'm speaking to.
So they're gestured. Eyebrows raised so high they were practically in orbit, bracing herself for a gentle lob of political niceties, only to be greeted with a rhetorical cricket bat to the metaphorical shin. McVey opened with a classic British intro, civil tone, measured voice, the kind of cadence that says, "I'm not angry, just very, very disappointed." You know, the kind that gives you flashbacks of your Year 9 teacher calling your essay ambitious, but flawed. And then bam, McVey declares the entire inquiry into those most serious and harrowing of topics a masterclass in procrastination. Oh, if that line had any more spice, it had come with a Nando's warning label. It was as if she just told the entire government, nice statement, shame. It's utterly useless. Now, dear viewers, if you've ever seen Someone tried to keep a composed face while internally plotting the downfall of everyone within a 10-foot radius. You've seen Jess Phillips in that moment. Her nostrils flared, her eyes narrowed. Somewhere a parliamentary assistant quietly put their lunch down and whispered, "It's happening." McVey then turned the heat up like a mum who's just found muddy football boots on her new cream carpet. "What we wanted," she proclaimed with the terms of reference. Such a gloriously British demand, like storming the Bastille, but making sure to queue first. And she didn't stop there. "Where are they on the website?" she asked with all the righteous fury of someone who's just been told to try turning it off and on again. Will this go on and on and on, conveniently past the next general election? The camera briefly panned to the government benches, where several MPs developed sudden and intense interest in their shoelaces. Now, most people, when called out publicly in front of, I don't know, the entire country, might attempt a calm, collective response. Not just, "Oh no," she leapt up like a cat that's just heard a vacuum cleaner. Her voice, already set to passionate monologue, suddenly hit West Midlands fury level. "I don't think the honourable lady wants to hear my hopes about the next general election," she snapped with the vibe of a dinner guest who's just been asked to leave for suggesting pineapple belongs on roast beef. She then launched into a list of numbers, as if attempting to summon data to shield herself, like a statistical patronist. 1,073 cases identified, 216 expertised. She declared as though shouting numbers makes everything all right. Somewhere an accountant felt a strange twinge of joy, but didn't know why. But McVey's original point wasn't about how many numbers Jess could rattle off like a calculator on a caffeine high. It was about clarity, transparency, and, oh yes, actually getting things done. You know, the sort of minor details you might expect from a government inquiry into something serious. Instead, what we got from Phillips was an extended episode, Whose Turn Is It to Care?, where she simultaneously tried to look sympathetic, busy, informed, and slightly annoyed that someone dared question her all at once. Now, the pièce de résistance just turned to emotional appeal. "Victims have sat in front of me," she said with tears in their eyes. Now, naturally, this is deeply serious. And let's be clear, real victims deserve dignity, justice, and action. No mockery there. But in the context of the exchange, Phillips used this not as a point of substance, but as a sort of moral Uno reverse card. Instead of addressing McVey's call for hard answers, Jess decided to launch into a heartfelt TED talk about how sad shouting makes people. You could almost hear the invisible piano music swelling in the background. She then took a peculiar detour. "You've never asked for a meeting with me," she sniffed. A response so wildly out of place, it was like someone responding to a fire alarm by offering everyone a scented candle. Please get in touch with my office," she added, because nothing says accountability like vaguely encouraging your political opponent to book a time in your Google Calendar. But the final twist, oh dear viewer, the final twist was the real showstopper. "Hers is not the voice I'm most concerned about," Jess said. Cue dramatic gasp. The sort of nine that would make a Love Island contestant drop their Proco, because why just disagree when you can deliver a passive-aggressive dagger dipped in velvet? It was the political equivalent of telling someone, "It's not that I don't care what you think. It's just that you're spectacularly irrelevant." Somewhere a microphone considered dropping itself in protest. Let's take a step back and appreciate the full drama of the exchange. On one side, McVey calm, composed, wearing the expression of someone who's had enough, demanding that the government pull its socks up and do more than just waffle their way through a crisis. On the other side, Phillips oscillating between statistical cannon fire, emotional appeals, and high-octane shade-throwing, desperately trying to retake the narrative as it slipped through her fingers like a wet bar of soap. It's the kind of theatre that reminds you British politics isn't really about left or right half the time. It's about who can win the latest round of Westminster's Got Talent. And on this particular day, dear viewer, it wasn't Jess Phillips, because if her goal was to appear informed, responsible, and above the fray, what we got instead was a woman being caught with an empty toolbox after loudly insisting she was building a house. The real irony, Phillips kept stressing how the victims hated when politicians shout and argue, yet there she was delivering her own impassioned soliloquy that did exactly that. The whole thing had the energy of someone yelling, "We must stop shouting," at the top of their lungs. So what did we learn from this glorious little episode of British parliamentary banter? First, if you're going to go toe-to-toe with someone in the comments, make sure your answers have more substance than a flan in a heat wave. Second, emotional appeals are important, but they're not a substitute for actual answers. And third, if someone asks you for the terms of reference and your reply involves offering a meeting in a hug, you might want to check your job description. As the dust settles, one imagines McVey calmly returning to her bench, sipping metaphorical tea, while Phillips stews in a cocktail of indignation and vague indignance. The true winner, the British public, who got yet another reminder that while government might not always govern, it certainly knows how to put on a show. And as for Jess, perhaps next time when the spotlight's on, she'll come armed not just with numbers and noise, but with the very thing McVey asked for from the start: answers. Cheerio for now. And remember, next time you hear the word statutory inquiry, brace yourself, because in British politics, that's usually just the first act in a 3-hour opera of confusion, contradiction, and occasionally comedy gold. Thanks for watching this video till the end. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with your loved ones, so you can put a smile on their face. Thanks once more. See you in the next video.